Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
Morning, honorable members. Am I audible?
Yes, Chair, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Good morning. My apologies for logging in a little bit late. I'm trying to get a
Recording in
space
progress.
because my office is a cold storage, so I'm trying to get a warmer place where I can be able to concentrate. Otherwise, morning everybody. I hope we are all ready for our meeting. I'm not going to waste time because we know that we are competing the space with load shedding. I will then allow Mr. Sakaza to take us through the roll call. And Mr. Sakaza, over to you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and good morning to all my members and to the department at large. Chair, we've got today the following members. We've got yourself, Chair, Honorable Dunjwa, Honorable Zuma, Honorable Volmarans, Honorable Mdabe, Honorable Ngobo, Honorable Denner, Honorable Mkondo, Honorable Baygram, Honorable Goff. I haven't received any apology, Chair, from the members. From the support staff, we've got myself, Chair, we've got Portia, Tebuho, the researcher, Tolelwa, and Sibongiseni Ngobo, the content advisor. I only received an apology of the minister. Minister Nwesi is out of town. Out of the country, Chair. Thank you, Chair. That's all I have. Oh, I see there's Honorable Nonsele just coming in, Chair. Thank you.
Comrade Zolan, Mr. Sagaza, you didn't mention me. I'm also in. Sorry, Chair.
I did mention Honorable Zuma, Chair. Sorry. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, DM. I didn't. I was still trying to get a comfortable place. I didn't open this. Can we then get the acting DG, if she's around, to introduce the members of the department, including the CDPOs? I see some of them are here. Over to you, acting the.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members. Good morning, Deputy Minister. and colleagues. Present today, Honorable Chair, is the acting COO, the CFO, the CEO of SCE, who will also be making presentations. We also have present the CDPOs for Gauteng, CDPO for Northwest, CDPO for the Eastern Cape, CDPO for Mpumalanga, and a CDPO for Limpopo. We also have the Office of the Minister and the Deputy Minister, Mr. Mtimde, the Advisor, Mr. Wababa, Parliamentary Liaison, Ms. Balu, the Chief of Staff, Ms. Zotani, the Coordinating Office, and Mr. Mweli, the Head of the Deputy Minister's Office, and Mr. Mapagati, Parliamentary Liaison for the Deputy Minister's Office. We also have apologies that have been tendered, but we have DDG Morotoba on the platform as well. And then we've got apologies, Chairperson. Inspector General is unable to attend. However, the Chief Inspector, Ms. Reuters, will attend on her behalf. DDG Corporate Services is also unable to attend owing to other commitments in the office. We also have an apology for CDPO Western Cape. We have an apology for acting DDG Labor Policy and Industrial Relations. And we have an apology for Chief Communications Officer, Mr. Tejane, who is represented on the platform by Ms. Petunia Lessing. And then we've got the DG's office support staff. Thank you, Honorable Chair and members.
Thank you, Acting DG. Mr. Sakaza, do we have any visitors, people that have logged in, which are coming, who are not members of Parliament, nor part of the department staff? Are there any?
Chair, the only person that I have seen is Mr. Tabiso Zulu from PMG. I don't recognize any other person, Chair. Thank you.
PMG? Parliamentary Minister.
Thank you very much. Who is that one? Tabiso? Oh, okay. I thought there's somebody who's there. No, thank you very much. Thank you very much. We will. I'm of the understanding that we've all we all received the documents and the agenda. And I hope, I'm just thinking now, my apologies, I'm thinking about that, Mr. Wababa, Kakchonilang. I hope documents of the meeting are also where CDPOs are going to be part of the meeting. They are also being exposed to those documents, so that they are able to understand and go with the flow. I'm assuming, Mr. Sakaza, OCTPOs, you have also circulated through Mr. Wababa the documents for the meeting. Having said that,
yes,
oh, okay, thank you. Having said that, we'll check with the DM if is there any brief overview before we start with our agenda in terms of today's agenda.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Yes.
If you allow me, Chair, to come through, can I come in?
Yes, you may, ma'am.
Thank you so much. For purposes of honorable members to see that I'm alive, I'm not a robot. Here I am, and if the chair allows that, I can switch off my video, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. I can do so if you so allow.
you may switch it off if it's going to
Thank you
affect
so much.
your network.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members of the committee, and staff members of the committee, our officials from the department, led by the acting DG, Mayor Onkem Jo, our guests, if there are any, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you once more, Honorable Chairperson, for the opportunity that you have granted us, that you normally do. And let me start by stating the obvious, by confirming the obvious, the apology of the minister who is attending the ILO governing body in Geneva. But also because the acting DG is here, Honorable Chair and members, and her team to brief further in detail the portfolio committee on the 2024-25 annual performance plan of the Department of Employment and Labor, and of course with the supported employment enterprises, our SEE. Mine is just to give you the overview before the acting DG comes. I've raised some of the matters with Mayor. I will raise some of the issues that I will talk to will be also reflected from what Mayor Onke will be talking to. But we just want to reiterate the fact that the interactions that the department consistently have with the portfolio committee do empower and nudge all of us to the right direction. But I also want to demonstrate that we do listen to the portfolio committee members at all times when we are in these meetings. And I think our presentation will also try to respond to some of the issues and some of the questions that might arise from members. So not in so many words, honorable members, I want to mirror an ever-improving department owing to the role of this portfolio committee. I also want to highlight changes that are taking place and ongoing as a consequence of engagements of these portfolio committee meetings. Lastly, I do want to illustrate consistency that may have to be appreciated. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, on the 28th of February 2024, the department came to brief honorable members about the repositioning of the UIF and the compensation fund. And the portfolio committee welcomed warmly that briefing and encourage the department to push ahead with it. Today, we are, of course, briefing this committee about the departmental plan for 2024-25, which also involves the reconfiguration of the department. The portfolio committee would know that in the past, we have been briefing each other about the expanded mandate. I remember that in those discussions, I'm sure honorable members will remember that Honorable Kado, I don't know where he might have been, where he is, because he seems to be missing in action recently. We will always raise the well-known facts about the rate of unemployment, and most often than not, the minister would respond to say that it's not in the way to study stats, the way, the understanding of Honorable Kado most often when he asks these questions. But in any way, honorable members, some of the major points that I want to drive home about this is that Minister and I, as well as the entire department, we believe to process some of the work in logical, methodical, and systematic manner. And this is the approach we took in slotting in the employment mandate into the department, to do it logical, methodical, and systematic. So, Honorable Chairperson, we are busy with the repositioning of the two funds as a project. We have its twin project, which is the reconfiguration of the department itself, which is in a nutshell is about reconfiguring the department such that it seamlessly and with ease carry the employment mandate. And this is a project that is incorporated into this APP and it's budgeted for. The other matter, honorable members, that I would like to touch on, Chair, is that the department has developed and approved an ICT strategy. The committee and the department discussed the ICT issue in previous. We must therefore report to you advances the department is making in this regard. Yes, There is this ICT strategy whose main objective is to achieve operational excellence by stabilizing and securing the department's ICT environment. The stakeholders of the department demand to experience seamless and reliable service. So in the short, medium, and long term, those are some of the imperatives we aim to afford them. So there are also other strategies and policies that have been developed by the department, like the risk management policy, whistleblowing policy, anti-fraud and corruption strategy, and others. So of course, we will continue to talk about and delve deeper in this in the future meetings. I have already indicated that the Acting Director General will take the meeting through the presentation, where you would see in slide 11 and 12 the list of government priorities in the current MTSF of 2020 to 2025, and it is also indicated where the Department of Employment and Labour contributes to the attainment of such priorities, particularly in relation to transformation, job skills, the social wage, and decent work. So in slide 22 to 23, honorable members, indicates the number of inspections undertaken by the department's inspection and enforcement services, and legislation to be enforced, like your health and safety, basic conditions of employment and national minimum wage, as well as employment equity laws. And slide 24 to 25 will deal with specific enforcement strategies and measures. So in short, Honorable Chair, if you go through your presentations when our acting DG takes us through, your slide 39 will indicate measures to promote sound labor relations. And this is an important part of the department's mandate to develop and maintain a sophisticated system of collective bargaining and industrial relations machinery. Those who would seek to deregulate the labor market are encouraged to reflect on the implications of this, and not just the assault on decent work, but also the removal of agreed processes and practices which maintains order in the labor market. So I want just to warn that we need to be careful of what we wish for. So, honorable members, in our past engagements, if our past engagements are anything to go by, the minister and myself appreciate the support that we have been getting from you, honorable members, honorable chairperson, in relation to the supported employment service enterprises, the SEEs. We know how passionate you are. Those who have been to the factories, they know the challenges. But I think all of us must consider that we still have a long way to go when it comes to the SEEs being supported universally so, and such support being demonstrated by deeds. And all what I'm saying at this point in time, Honorable Chairperson, continue to bank on your support, even in this hour. We hope that your support, your continuous talking to Parliament about the plight of the SEE, we're still really banking on you. When you go to slide 50 to 57, which are on SEE, the planned outputs and targets, challenges experienced, as well as priorities and mitigation strategies going forward, are all presented in those slides. But Honorable Chairperson, the annual performance plan that is presented to you is also costed. The department has got it from the minister and I that the funds allocated must be utilized effectively, efficiently, and prudently. And through you, Chair, thank you for listening to me. And if you allow, Chair, then our team can take you further and forward on these matters. Thank you so much.
Thank you, DM. Without wasting any time, I will then invite the acting DG to take us through the presentation. And as members, we have all received the documentation. So I think we will be able to follow the presentation. Over to you, Ms. Mcho.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you, Deputy Minister, and the honorable members of the Portfolio Committee. I just wish to add, Chairperson, that CDPO Northern Cape has also joined us. As the Deputy Minister has outlined the focus of the presentation, Chairperson and honorable members, we will look at the mandate just so that all of us go back to why we are here and what are these plans talking to, and how are we responding through our performance indicators and the plans that we've put in place. Equally, we will be talking about the budget allocation to support these annual plans, and as well as a legislative mandate and enablers in terms of what are those policies and what are those legislative amendments that will be going through in this financial year. We will then, after receiving the Department of Employment and Labour annual performance indicators and programs, we will go into the financial allocation. And after that, we will go to supported employment enterprises, who equally will give us the outlook, the plans, and as well as the budget allocation. And Chairperson, allow me therefore to request through you that this presentation is taken in a three-part form. Ms. Nolukholo Sigaba, who is the acting Chief Operations Officer of the Department of Employment and Labour, will take us through the first session of the presentation, which is the annual performance indicators and programs as for 2024-25. She will then be followed, Chairperson, by the CFO, Mr. Bheki Maduna, who will then take us through the budget for 2024-25 and the outer years. And then we will then have Mr. Sibusiso Phakathi, who is the CEO of SEE, who will take us through the presentation. So as communicated earlier, Chairperson and honorable members, it is one presentation, but it is divided into those three. And I therefore request through you, Chairperson, that we allow the three senior officials that I've mentioned to take us through the different parts of the presentation. And we would then have concluded the presentation after we have presented SEE. Thank you, Chairperson. I therefore request if we can have Ms. Sigaba present the first part of thank you.
Thank you. Over to you, Ms. Sigaba.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning to the honorable members of Parliament. Good morning to the Deputy Minister who is leading the delegation from the department. Good morning to the acting DG in the department, and also good morning to my colleagues. Chairperson, I am going to take you through the annual performance plan of the department for 2024. If you will allow me, Chairperson, if I can switch off my video in order to preserve my connectivity. I am also searching profusely where I am. It is very hot. I wish I was where you are, Chairperson.
No, it's fine. We saw you. You can switch your video off.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable members of Parliament, April 2024 will mark 30 years since the advent of democracy in South Africa. It will be 12 years since the adoption of the National Development Plan, the NDP 2030, which was adopted in 2012. The moment also will mark the end of term for the 6th administration of South Africa's democratic dispensation and the 2019-2024 cycle of the medium-term strategic framework. Chapter 13 of the NDP highlights the importance of the state in taking an active and transformative role in tackling the triple challenges of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. These are amongst the key challenges that are faced by the democratic government of the day and by implication the Department of Employment and Labor. For the past 30 years, though, the Department of Employment and Labor has been at the forefront in ensuring that human rights are also worker rights in pursuit of the developmental goals of the country. This APP 2024-2025 and those that have been presented to this Parliament before will bear testimony to this. The APP 2024-2025 is also at the cusp of the important events that are taking place in our country. If we can move to slide number 2, the acting DG has already indicated that the presentation is going to be in 3 parts, and the APP for the Department of Employment and Labor will be presented by myself, then the budget allocation by the CFO as well as SEE CEO will take us through the APP for supported employment enterprises. The introduction, Chairperson, members of Parliament, is divided into the policy mandate of the department, the vision, mission, and values of the Department of Employment and Labor Service Delivery Print. I'm not going to elaborate on this, Chairperson, because we have been doing it in the past 4 years. That will be covered in slide number 5, slide number 6, and slide number 7. Slide number 8 alludes to the values of the department, which are derived from the service charter of the department, as well as the Batupele principles. If we can go to slide number 9. Slide number 9 is a picture of the architect of the department, and it informs the strategic plan and the APP that we are presenting today. We have 4 programs in the department. Program 1 being administration, which is composed of the ministry, the deputy ministry, the DG's office, corporate services, the office of the COO, as well as the office of the CFO. Program 2 is IES, inspection and enforcement services. Program 3 is PES, public employment services. Program 4, labor market policy and industrial relations, LP and IR. We have supported employment enterprises. We are also supported by the 2 funds of the department, which is the UIF as well as the compensation fund. And these are the Schedule 3A public entities of the department. Also, to assist the department to realize its mandate, we have entities that were established in terms of the various legislations, that is slide number 10, as well as cabinet decisions. These are the CCMA, the NETLEC, the Productivity SA. In slide number 11, Chairperson, members of Parliament, we have the extensive footprint of the department, service delivery footprint, which covers the length and breadth of the country across the 9 provinces. We have at headquarters the 2 funds, which are based in Pretoria, as well as the Dell headquarters. We have 9 provincial offices, 125 labor centers. We provide services at 30 satellite offices across the country. We have 41 two-song services centers. They are also around the country, as well as 447 visiting points. This is an attempt to make sure that services that are provided by the department are able to reach the poorest of the poor. In slide number 12, Honorable Chair, Honorable
Sorry,
members
ma'am. Sorry. I don't know whether it's my maybe a minor thing, but it may. When you said slide 11 in our presentation, it's slide 10. So in terms of the presentation, the document that we are having, you are 1 slide ahead. So I don't know. It's not something. It's not an issue, but I just want members to to bear with you, understand that when you are saying slide number 11, in our documents, it's slide number 10. I'm making an example. So yeah, I hope members are not confused about that. They will just for them to understand the flow. You may continue. I hope I haven't dislodged you.
No, you have not, Chairperson. Actually, you have assisted a great deal. Thank you for that, Chairperson. And my apologies for this. We have been trying very hard to keep the numbering. It keeps on jumping around because of this technology. Yeah, we tried very hard to make sure that we align the numbering, but somehow when we send the document, then it goes back to its original format. I'm in slide number 12, Chairperson, which will be your slide number 11. In slide number 12, Chairperson, we provide a picture of how the Department of Employment and Labor has been able to contribute to the MTSF priorities of the sixth administration from 2019 to 2024. We have 7 priorities in all from government, and the department is active in 6 of those priorities. Priority number 5, which is spatial development, human settlements, and local government, is not directly applicable to the department, but the department participates in this priority through the DDM, and that is through the provincial offices and labor centers of the department. In slide number 12, we have, which is 13 for me, we have the government service delivery priorities as well as the implementing entities in the department. Priority 1, which is a capable, ethical, and developmental state, is implemented through our corporate services, which is program 1 for administration, and that is across the department as well as its public entities. The entire department is invested in priority 2, Chairperson and honorable members, as you will observe, because all the branches of the department as well as the public entities, the 2 funds of the department, have performance indicators that are meant to deliver on priority number 2. Priority number 3, which is education, skills, and health, we have IES, PES, UIF, CF, as well as productivity SA. Priority number 4, which is the consolidating of social wage through reliable and basic services, and that is through UIF in the main, CF, as well as IES. Priority number 6 is social cohesion and safer communities. LPIR is our implementing agent here, and it is mainly about the administration of the Employment Equity Act. In priority number 7, we have a better Africa and a better world, and LPIR is the main implementing branch through our international relations chief directorate in the department. What are the results that we want to see with the implementation of our strategic plan as well as our annual performance plan? In the past 5 years, we have been seeking to implement a labor market which is conducive to decent employment. The next slides, Chairperson and honorable members, is going to be taking us through the key performance indicators for the 4 programs of the department. We will also be looking at the risks that we have identified that have a potential to delay the implementation of the APP and the S strategic plan. We also have mitigation strategies for all those risks. So I will be taking you through program 1 in slide number 15, which is slide number 14 to the members, which is a priority 1, a capable, ethical, and developmental state. If we can move to slide number 16, slide number 15, the key performance indicators for program 1, which is corporate services and administration, in this current financial year, 2024-2025, we want to make sure that all vacant funded posts are filled within 12 months. We do have challenges also about the moratorium that has been coming from National Treasury and forced by the DPSA, which has curtailed our ability to fill some of these key posts, but we expect that we will soon be over that hurdle. So we are likely to be delayed also in the implementation of this key performance indicator. 2.1, our endeavor is to make sure that 47% of all SMS positions in the department are occupied by women by the end of the financial year. 24% of positions must be occupied by youth. 2.3% of our positions must be occupied by people with disabilities. We also want to improve the information security status of the department, and that will be realized by the implementation of the roadmap, phase 2, and we want to implement 100% of that plan. Slide number 17. The Deputy Minister has alluded at length to these indicators. The legacy systems of the department are going to be transitioned to modern integrated SAP platforms by the end of the financial year. The aim of this indicator is to improve the ICT capability in the department by modernizing ICT systems for efficient and seamless service delivery, and to improve the turnaround times for the services that we render. So these legacy systems will be transitioned to modern integrated SAP platforms, and this we envisage will be concluded by the end of the financial year in 2025. 4.1, we want to ensure that we roll out 100% of the ethics work plan for the department, and that will be realized by the end of the financial year. This is to instill a culture of high ethics and to deal effectively with corruption in the department. 75% of corruption and fraud cases will be finalized by the department through investigations within 6 months of receipt. And this is also a zero tolerance to fraud and corruption, as alluded to by the Deputy Minister. 80% of consequence management cases that are related to corruption will be finalized by employment relations through investigations, and this we plan to do within 90 days of receipt of each one of these cases. We are still continuing with administration in slide number 17. The number of annual financial statements that will be submitted to National Treasury according to the National Treasury guidelines. We intend to produce 4 for the total financial year, and that will be 1 for each quarter and 30 days after each quarter end. 100% of irregular and unauthorized expenditure that will be detected will also be reported for each financial year. This is also an effort to curb irregular as well as unauthorized expenditure in the department. 100% of cases of fruitless and wasteful expenditure also will be reported as soon as they are detected. They are reported to the accounting officer. 9.1 alludes to the PwC report, which was already presented to the Portfolio Committee in a meeting we held on the 28th of February. This is about the reconfiguration of the department, including the unbundling of the UIF and the CF. This must be finalized by the end of the financial year. We will be producing unbundling UIF and CF progress reports on a quarterly basis. And I believe Parliament also will be informed about the developments of this project, as the Deputy Minister has indicated. These are the 3 major risks that are keeping us awake at night around the implementation of these key performance indicators in Program 1. The first one will anticipate that there are going to be delays in the modernization of ICT services to meet the required standards, pretty much because this indicator is also dependent upon the service providers that are deployed to the department to help us realize this indicator. And some of the activities may not entirely be within our control, but we are trying to come up with a risk mitigation strategy. We have developed a detailed strategic plan and implementation plan with stringent timeframes, and this will be monitored on a weekly basis in the project steering committees, the various project steering committees that have been set up by the department to ensure that all these projects are implemented on time. ICT will also implement the blueprint of the ICT infrastructure assessment and will constantly be making recommendations and making sure that these recommendations are implemented. The second risk is the unavailability of system, which can result in large-scale interruption of digitally enabled services and economic activity in the department. This would be catastrophic if it were to happen. The risk mitigation strategy for this is that there is resource augmentation through contracting, which is currently happening in the department to make sure that we don't run out of resources at the time at which we need them most. There will also be a temporary deployment of equipment for network services continuity in the event that we are interrupted. A plan is in place to make sure that there is a seamless deployment of this equipment. There also will be the deployment of services to cloud, the interim network continuity and 3G routers so that we can enable people, officials in the department to work outside the network system of the department. There's also an activation of public Wi-Fi access by the officials of the department, which will help them to work outside the network system of the department in the event that it has collapsed. The bandwidth is being increased on a day-to-day basis to a minimum of 10 Mbps across all labor centers. And there is a project plan to make sure that this is implemented, and we have made huge strides as a department to implement this, although we have not covered all the labor centers of the department. But there is a plan to make sure that all the labor centers of the department are covered. The last one under administration is cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a big headache for this industry, and Dell is no exception. Cybersecurity is about the protection of the integrity and confidentiality of the Dell data and the security of the cloud architecture of the department. So what are we doing to mitigate against cybersecurity? ICT is implementing an ICT security roadmap. It has been developed and it is being implemented in phases. And this is designed to provide security to the systems of the department. There has been procurement and implementation of a cloud and collaboration security tools, and the department is advanced in migrating some of our data to the cloud in order to protect it from this. There is an ongoing service security awareness and training campaigns in the department to make us aware about what should we do in order to safeguard the integrity and confidentiality of the data of the department. If we can move to slide number 21, which is 20, we will be looking at the key performance indicator for program 2, and that is inspection and enforcement services. Slide number 20. We have in the main 4 performance indicators for inspection and enforcement. The 1.1 will be 298,104 employers or workplaces will be inspected per year to determine compliance with the employment law of the department and the country. 95% of non-compliant employers' workplaces and users of those inspected will be served with notices in terms of relevant employment law within 14 calendar days of inspection. 65% of non-compliant employers' workplaces received by the statutory services of the department, settled out of court or CCMA, will be referred for prosecution within 30 working days. And this is designed to make sure that the labor laws of the department bite through the use of law enforcement agencies of the country. 1.4, IES intends to hold 4 seminars and 2 conferences in this financial year in order to promote awareness and have advocacy sessions that are going to be for key stakeholders in this industry. The next slide, which will be slide number 20. Sorry, slide number 22. That will be the provincial breakdown of IES targets. In slide number 22, we have the provincial breakdown of all the inspections that are going to be conducted by the department. As we can see, the Gauteng province and KZN, they have the lion's share of the inspections targets. They are followed by Eastern Cape and the Western Cape. And the province with the least number of inspections is Northern Cape. This allocation is based on the sizes of the provinces and the demand in each one of these provinces. In slide number 23, we have the inspections according to the legislations. And the key legislations that are going to be inspected and administered by the department is Employment Equity, the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, the Occupational Health and Safety Act, the Employment Audit Services, as well as Compensation for Occupational Injuries and Diseases Act, and that is implemented through the CF. And EAS is about determining compliance with the Unemployment Insurance Act. COID, on the other hand, is about determining compliance with the COID Act of the CF. As we can see, Honorable Chair, honorable members, the lion's share goes to the inspections that will be on Basic Conditions of Employment Act, followed by OHS, and the list will be COID as well as EAS. What are the key risks that we anticipate for IES? It will be in the safe and healthy work environment space, and this is non-compliance by employers and users with the labor legislation. What are we going to be doing as a department to enforce compliance in these sectors? The department over the years has leveraged existing as well as existing internal and external partnerships to ensure that we improve our advocacy programs, our inspection, as well as enforcement. So we're creating awareness around our labor legislation before we apply punitive measures. There is an elaborate plan to build the capacity of inspectors on a continuing basis, training of inspectors and making sure that inspectors are able to keep abreast with latest developments. IES has also deployed an effective induction program for new inspectors, and this also ensures that there is continuing mentoring and coaching of new inspectors until they are confident enough to work on their own. The advocacy programs are also specifically targeting problematic and high-risk sectors apart from general advocacy programs that are meant to create awareness. We also have what we call blitz inspections, which are targeted inspection programs that are conducted at national as well as provincial levels. Non-compliant employers are referred to law enforcement agencies like the CCMA and the courts, and fines are also administered to discourage truant employers. The department is monitoring compliance levels and is reporting on a quarterly basis on this in order to understand the compliance levels in the country, as well as to explore mitigation strategies to counter non-compliance. The department also is enhancing the structure of the branch to be able to respond to the labor market demands. There's also an effective implementation of the IES standard operating procedures so that we have a uniform approach to how we conduct inspections throughout the country. The second risk is under the protection of vulnerable workers, which is the key mandate of this branch. And this is around what has been a challenge for quite some time for IES, and that is unreliable IES information. But I can also say, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, that in the past 2 years, IES has embarked on automating its reporting processes by developing an IES case management system. The implementation of this system has paid off in the last financial year because IES was able to have a breakthrough and was able to produce reliable performance information with an unqualified audit. So the efficacy of this system was tested several times by the Auditor General as well as by the internal auditors of the department, and it was found to be reliable, hence the unqualified audit report that IES was able to receive in the past year for a long time of having disqualified audits, of having qualified audits. Despite the achievement, one would ask why, if we have enjoyed such success under this risk, why do we still have it in the risk management plan of the department? We understand that success comes with responsibility, which is why we still have this as a risk factor that needs to be monitored on a continuous basis, because if we do not monitor this risk, then any information that we produce around the inspections that we conduct for the country, it can be rendered null and void because it will be deemed to be unreliable. So we will be monitoring this risk for quite some time until we are confident enough that we have turned the corner. So to mitigate, the IS participate in the ICT structures of the department, which are about refining and augmenting these systems from time to time. The IS branch maintains and monitor the current controls to make sure that we don't slip. There is quality assurance across the nation at provincial level, as well as at labor center level, to make sure that we periodically evaluate the quality of the performance information that we produce. There are monthly reports that are submitted by provinces and which are quality assured, and they are returned when necessary. It is quite a rigorous quality assurance process at every level, starting at the level of the labor center, the provincial office, the branch, as well as the office of the COO in the planning, monitoring, and evaluation that is responsible for the consolidation of these reports that are then sent to National Treasury, to the DPME, as well as to Parliament. So it is not a surprise that we have been able to produce good results in this, because we have inculcated a culture of quality assurance in everything that we do. We also monitor the effective implementation of the standard operating procedures so that we do not deviate. There is full utilization of the case management system because IES has provided tools of trade like the laptops and cell phones so that no inspector is able to say they are unable to access the case management system because they don't have proper tools of trade. So this has been also a positive development in the department in that many inspectors now have laptops and they also have cell phones and they can conduct inspections on the go. There is continuous training of super users as well as end users concerning the operations of the case management system. If we move to program 3, which is public employment services, slide number 27, the key performance indicators for public employment services are, we intend to have 950,000 of work seekers registered on the employment services of South Africa by the end of the financial year. We intend to register 115,000 employment opportunities on the same system by the end of the financial year. 260,000 registered employment work seekers will be provided with employment counseling by the end of the financial year. 4.1 in slide number 28, the number of registered employment opportunities filled with registered work seekers per year, we intend to have that number at 65,000. 65,000 registered employment opportunities must be filled by registered work seekers by the end of the financial year. The number of jobs and career fairs that are going to be conducted per year for each province is going to be 9 in total for the financial year, and each province is expected to conduct at least 1. This is about taking employment services to the people. The last indicator for public employment services under 6.1 will be the finalization and approval for submission to Cabinet by the Minister, and that will be the submission of the National Labour Migration Policy as well as the Employment Services Amendment Bill. This is about the governance and management of the labour migration in South Africa, and the Employment Services Amendment Bill seeks to translate growth into jobs. Slide number 31, which will be 30, is the provincial breakdown of the targets that are planned for public employment services. And the first one will be the registration of work seekers on ESSA. The total is 950,000. The provinces that get the lion's share, again, is Gauteng Province, KwaZulu-Natal, followed by Western Cape and the Eastern Cape, and the list again is the Northern Cape, and this is also according to size as well as resources deployed to those provinces. The second one will be the employment opportunities registered on ESSA. Again, the total is 115,000 dispersed across the 9 provinces and on the basis of size and capacity for each province. The counseling provided to registered work seekers in slide number 32, the total envisaged for the year is 260,000, and that is the provincial distribution according to resources and capacity. The employment opportunities filled, the total is 65,000. Again, we have the 2 major provinces, followed by the mid-sized provinces and the smaller provinces. What are the risks that we envisage for public employment services? It is around outcome 1, which is work seekers placed in work and learning opportunities. That is the creation of job opportunities for those who are unemployed. It is a big headache for the country. It is a big headache also for the department. The key risk is that there will be insufficient placement of registered work seekers in registered opportunities in our system. PES realizes that employment creation is a collective effort by both the public as well as the private sectors. Hence, the forged partnerships in both sectors, because PES cannot do it alone, the department cannot do it alone. The national employment policy will not be a silver bullet. We understand that there is the development of the NEP as well as the migration policy. We are also aware that it is not going to be a silver bullet to the high unemployment rate in South Africa, particularly for the youth. But we also have faith that it will lead and lay the foundation, one, to translate growth into jobs, the development of appropriate procedures and reforms that should be undertaken to ensure that investments, they lead to sustainable growth and decent jobs. It will also be important that we will develop a national employment implementation plan, which will then outline what needs to be done by when and by who. And this is where the rubber will meet the road. This will be the important part of the implementation of the policies that are in the making. DEL, to mitigate this risk, DEL currently participates in the Pathway Management Network that was announced by the President. The UIF and other departments, as well as entities, the private sector and NGOs, they have formed a collaboration in order to provide a range of work seeker services. This is but one of the partnerships that have been formed by the department over the years to assist in this process of employment creation. To widen the reach to the unemployed and to the youth in particular, there will be further developments on ESSA online services. Actually, we have started and we have made huge strides in this area. The development of ESSA online services and the launch of the new ESSA functionalities. I've spoken about the draft National Employment Policy and the progress that has been achieved thus far. It is ready for approval by Cabinet, and the draft NEP will be revised to incorporate stakeholders and develop an NEP implementation plan. That will be for this financial year. The National Labour Migration Policy, as well as the Employment Services Amendment Bill, they will be finalized and approved for submission to Cabinet by the Minister. A lot of groundwork also has been realized in this area. There is a concerted effort to provide funding to entities that are assisting PES in employment promotion, and these are the GTEC, which is from the National Treasury. SEE also needs to be funded, Productivity SA, CF, NGOs, as well as the UIF. So also there need to be a conscious decision to provide funding to all the entities that are tasked with assisting public employment services in employment promotion and creation, because without funding, it will be difficult for these programs to take off the ground. In program number 4, which is Labor Policy and Industrial Relations, slide number 37, 38, 36, sorry. These are the key performance indicators for program 4 of the department LP and IR, whose main mandate is the implementation of sound labor relations. Sector EEE targets will be developed and consulted, and this will be concluded by the 31st of March 2025. The annual EE report, Employment Equity Report and Public Register will be published by the 30th of June 2024, and that will be the register for the previous financial year, that is 2023-2024. And that is how these reports are planned. The annual EE report and public register will be developed, and this will be finalized by the 31st of March 2025. The national minimum wage level will be reviewed and will be published in the Government Gazette by the end of the financial year next year. It is reviewed on an annual basis. Slide number 37, continuing with LP and IR. 100% of collective agreements where parties are not representative will be assessed and will be verified. And our plan is to do this within 120 working days of receipt. And that is the annual target, also on a quarterly basis. 4.2, 100% of collective agreements will be assessed and verified within 60 working days on a quarterly basis, building up to the annual target. 100% of labor organizations that are applying for registration will be approved or refused, and we plan to do that within 90 working days, and 100% of those must be approved or received within 90 days of receipt. Under 6.1, we intend to produce 2 reports on the implementation of bilateral cooperation and multilateral obligations that are signed off by the minister on an annual basis. And this is the International Relations Chief Directorate of the LP and IR branch. Under 7.1, 4 annual labor market trend reports will be produced by the end of the year in 2025. And 2 research reports that will be testing the impact of the labor legislation will be produced by the end of the financial year, 31st March 2025. 2 research reports at least must have been completed by the end of the financial year that will help us to ascertain the impact of our labor legislation. The one risk that has been identified under this program is around the key mandate of this program, which is the promotion of sound labor relations, and that will be the inability to extend collective agreements to non-parties within 120 working days where parties are not representative, and within 60 working days where parties are representative. The department, to mitigate this risk, is going to be following through with the amendments to the Labor Relations Amendment Bill, the Basic Conditions of Employment Amendment Bill, and the National Minimum Wage Act in order to deal with the gaps in this legislation. MOUs have been concluded with non-parties in order to fast-track them to be able to receive these collective agreements. Collective bargaining and standard operating procedures are in place in order to guide the implementation processes. At this point, Chairperson, I will then hand over to the CFO, who will take us through the budget review, the allocations, as well as the reductions for this coming financial year. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, honorable members.
Thank you, ma'am. Can we then hand over to the CFO?
Good morning, Honorable Chair, honorable members, Deputy Minister, colleagues at large. I am going to take the committee through the budget that has been allocated to the department. But before I zoom into the presentation, I thought it's wise to indicate the activities that happened in this financial year in preparation for the figures that I'm about to present. I think that will form part of my presentation, and it will be important for the appreciation of the figures that we have, but also preempting the frequently asked questions that have come up, particularly this financial year. The questions in terms of the budget cuts, to more especially from the entities to say, why did we implement the cut on particular on certain entities? I will direct members to the figures that seem to answer that particular question. This year has been a very, very challenging year when it comes to the figures, the fiscal financial performance, which has led to Treasury ending the financial year. They called us and indicated that we need to prepare.
Sorry.
Hello. We need to prepare for the budget, the looming budget cuts that was ending the year. And we're asked to prepare 3 scenarios: 6% cut, 8% cut, 10% cut. All these cuts, we needed to do them over the MTF period. At that time, the department was leaning more towards unaffordability to take cuts. In engagement with Treasury, although we did prepare these 3 scenarios over the MTF, but we're more onto the unaffordability, and we thought that 3% cut the department can take. Unbeknown to us, the final verdict came to a reduction of 7.6% in 2024-25, 7.7% in 25-26, and 7.8% in 26-27. Those were the final cuts that was decided that the department will implement. This excludes the compensation of employees, as my colleague has indicated earlier on. All these cuts were to be implemented in all the economic classifications, excluding compensation of employees. Compensation of employees was facing its own challenges due to the conclusion of the wage agreement, government-wide. It's somewhere around 7.5%. However, we're not given additional funding to cater for that implementation. We were instructed to fund it within our budget. That then resulted in all the funded positions that we had being unfunded for us to be able to cater for those. I think the calculation was for the department, the calculation was 80 million. That's the first part. I also want maybe just to touch a little bit to give some clarity, just to emphasize the point on the budget reduction, to say the reductions that were implemented in this financial year were not the first ones. In fact, there were budgets cuts that we implemented in 2019 over the MTF period, which was 27 million in 2019-20, 28.5 million in 2021, and 29 million in 21-22. There was also a further reduction that we implemented in 2021 financial year, but also over the MTF period. It amounted to 13.1 million, 10 million, 10.8 million, and 11 million over the MTF period. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because all these reductions, they were taken only from the department. The entities were not affected, or we made it a point that the entities are not affected by these cuts that happened in 2019 and also in 2021. So the cuts that were meant to implement in 2023-24 for 24-25 to 26-27, we had to look into the entire budget of the department. That as a way of introduction so that we can understand, as I present the figures on the presentation, I'll be making reference to the introduction that I've just made. So let me then go straight to the presentation that has been built. 2023-24, that's the baseline. That's the current financial year that is ending in March. Ending in ending in this, look at the end of this month. The budget for the baseline, the baseline allocation was 4.016 billion. As members can see, that going forward, there is a drop in the budget in 2024-25 of 3.8 billion, and a further drop in budget in 25-26 of 3.777 billion, and then in 26-27 a projection of an upward movement of 3.955 billion budget allocation. The programs have been indicated in terms of the allocation. Let's go over to the next slide, which is economic classification. Next slide. As I've indicated on the budget cuts, that a compensation of employees was excluded, simply because it now deals with the people that are there in the establishment, and the benefit that they get is the 1.5 increase in their packages on the performance. Hence the slight increase on the compensation of employees budget allocation in terms of economic classification from 1.27 billion is on the baseline to 1.501 billion in 24-25 to 1.546 billion in 25-26, 1.617 billion in 26-27. That's the item that is has not been affected, or that was excluded from the budget cuts because it had its own challenges. The budget cuts that were implemented by on the department were mainly on the goods and services, transfers and subsidies, payment for capital assets. Having said that, I just want to reconcile on the frequently asked question that I indicated earlier on that I will be making reference to. The percentage cuts that were announced by Treasury of 7.6, 7.7, 7.8, if you calculate them, more especially on the entities, it will result probably not in that percentage, simply because from the department, we are calculating that percentage, excluding compensation of employees, whereas in them, it is their entire budget, more especially sitting on transfers and subsidies. So it further gives an answer as to why, in some cases, entities have tried to calculate the budget cuts, and it amounted to somewhere around 11%. Simply because from our side, we are excluding compensation of employees that is handled differently. The figures in terms of economic classifications are the same. I'm not going to repeat. I just wanted to emphasize that point, on the transfers and subsidies, but it will be further explained in the coming slides. Next slide. Next slide depicts the budget reductions or budget cuts that have been effected by the department per branch. And in total, they amounted to 297 million in 24-25, 320 in 25-26, 329 million in 26-27. In total, over the MTF period, the budget reductions amount to just below a million, amounting to 947 million rands over the MTF period. Next slide. This is the slide probably that I would probably also go in detail, trying to analyze the reductions. On goods and services, we cut our budget by 111 million in 24-25, 25-26, 116 million, 26-27, 122 million. That's just for the department. On the entities where they are sitting on transfers and subsidies is 170 million in 24-25, 186 million in 25-26, 188 million in 26-27. In total, for the entities, mostly, we effected the budget cut of 545 million. Machinery and equipment, 15.5 million, 24-25. 17.3 million, 25-26. 18 million in 26-27. In total, 50.9 million. Overall, the total reductions for the department and its portfolio, 297 million for 24-25, 320.4 million for 25-26, 329.2 million for 26-27. In total, the budget cut is 947 for the over the MTF period. Let me also zoom further on the entities where there has been where my frequently asked questions have been directed. The budget on the transfers and subsidies, compensation fund, where the COIDA on injury on duty is sitting. That's the budget for the injury on duty over the MTF period that has been allocated to the department. Productivity SA that's their allocation over the MTF period is 62.9 million, 61.47 million, and 64. No, the baseline 62.9 is the baseline, and with the budget cut, it went down to 61.472 million for productivity SA. For 25-26, it then went up to 64.1 million. To 26-27, it went up to 67 million. Supported employment enterprises, the baseline is 187 million. For the for the next financial year, due to budget cuts, it also went down from 187 to 184.6 million. It then picked up to 195.5 million in 25-26, and to 206.9 million in 26-27. Designated groups, 25.1 is a baseline. There was also a budget cut implemented in that line item as well, to 21.657 million in 24-25, 22.7 in 25-26 financial year, and 23.8 in 26-27. There has been a new item in terms of the transfers that has been introduced in the department, not necessarily introduced. It should be viewed with the one below of GTEC. We now have a transfer to IDC, Industrial Development Corporation, of 57.5 million. Together with GTEC, even their allocation as well went down from 298 to 172. But on this one, I will probably further ask, Chair, to you, that my colleague, DDG Public Employment Services, just explain that part, more especially for next year, because it will be with us. So that is, I think there is an understanding upfront in terms of this new allocation, which has been GTEC previously. But maybe after I've completed my presentation, he can come back and just give some more information on the transfer to industrial oil to GTEC together with ITC. That would be Public Employment Services, where the money is sitting. Next slide. Reductions on Public Employment Services, the branch. Compensation fund. Look in terms of COIT, the reduction was 7 million or 6.9 million in 24-25, 7 million in 25-26, and 6.1 million in 26-27. Productivity SA, the reduction was 4.2 million for 24-25. 25-26 is 4.5 million. 26-27 is 4.7 million. Supported employment entities, enterprise, for 24-25, the reduction, they've catered for the reduction of 19.9 million in 24-25. 25-26, a reduction of 26.9 million. And in 26-27, a reduction of 25.6 million. Designated groups, they had a look in 24-25, a reduction of 4.6 million. 25-26, a reduction of 4.7 million. And in 26-27, a reduction of 4.8 million. Next slide. Still continuation. But we have put these ones in terms of programs because they are sitting in various programs. So the other reductions sitting in LP and IR branch, labor, policy and industrial relations, strengthening of civil society. There is a budget cut from 24 on the allocation of 24.8 as a baseline. There's been a reduction to 23.8 in 24-25. Then the budget picks up slightly to 25-26 to 24.9 million, 26-27 to 26.1 million. International Labour Organization, our affiliation to ILO, here there is no reduction simply because it's our affiliation to ILO. So there's an agreed amount. So no reduction could be implemented there. Only the anticipated affiliation fee that we expect to pay over the MTF period. CCMA, yes, there is a reduction on CCMA. The baseline is 1 billion, is 1.041 billion, which is their current allocation. However, next year we effected a reduction of to 975 million in 24. In 24-25, in 25-26, it then picks up to 1.016 billion, and in 26-27, 1.65 billion. Network, there is no reduction on network, simply because there is an amount that is earmarked for network that could not be touched. The baseline is 73.6 billion. In 24-25, there is a 75.8 million allocation. 26-27 indicative allocation is 80.1 million. 26-27 an earmarked allocation of 83.7 million. That is the transfers and subsidies in total that are that are sitting in our budget allocation. Currently, in total, they are sitting at 1.1 billion as a baseline, 1.162 billion, and the reduction brings them down to 1.1 billion, and it continues over the MTF period. Furthermore, the department has received some funding from European Union. Is also sitting at not in AP and IR. This is the continuous slide, sitting at on public employment services. We received a funding of 80.5 million in the current financial year that is ending end of this month. And we are going to get a further 30.6 million in 24-25. I will also request that my DDG, my colleague, Public Employment Services DDG, when he talks about, when he elaborates on IDC and G10, he also touches on the E4E funding, because it's also sitting in his branch. He will probably know more on the conditions and of the funding as well. Last slide. In terms of the transfer reductions on NP and IR, civil society, we effected a reduction of 2 million in 24-25. 2.1 million in 25-26, 2.270 million in 26-27. International Labour Organization, the reduction that we see there is the savings on the exchange rate when we pay that ILO contribution over the MTF period. The reduction on CCMA. There has been, on the frequently asked questions, there has been a question as to why CCMA were deducted from CCMA. The answer is very, very simple. CCMA received a budget allocation of above $1 billion. So if there is a cutting of a certain percentage, as indicated earlier on, we had to look into everybody that received funding from the Department of Labor, so that we make the required percentage reduction that we asked for by Treasury. So for CCMA, 121.7 million was taken from 24-25 in 24-25, 130.2 million, 25-26, 133.9 million in 26-27. Network as well, they enjoyed a reduction of 8.4 in 24-25. 7.9 million in 25-26, 8.2 million in 26-27. So the total reductions amounts to 134 in 24-25, 142.9 million in 25-26, 147 million in 26-27, with the total of 424 million over the MTF period. Chair, that Honorable Chair, that concludes my presentation on finance in terms of the budget allocation reductions over the MTF period. Thank you.
Thank you, CFO. Before we move to SEE, I'd appreciate if the DDG, whom you said is going to explain the IDC, the GTEC, and the European and the E43, is she in a position to do that now, so that we know that we are done with finances?
Yes, Honorable Chairperson Sam Morotoba. Honorable Chairperson will remember that the Minister of Finance announced an allocation of 7 billion rand for the Youth Employment Promotion Project. The money that was raised within government, including contributions from the UIF, to mainly target the issue of youth unemployment. Now, to coordinate that massive program of more than 7.5 billion rand, as the coordinating department, we were given an additional 250 million rand to work with the private sector and other government departments to coordinate that massive program in the 24-25 financial year. So the bulk of that money will go to the National Pathway Management. We couldn't create a structure because that takes time. You give people contracts, and by the time they start, the project is about to end. So the recommendation from Treasury was that we appoint a pathway manager, which is Arambe, and we will be working with them in that program. And secondly, the IDC, because they've got a huge infrastructure for the various innovation projects to receive applications and process them on our behalf. But we will still take responsibility together with the Office of the President to report on the 7 billion that is going to go directly to the different departments, with the Department of Basic Education receiving the largest chunk because of the teacher training program. So that's the 250 million to support the 7.5 billion that is allocated for employment. Secondly, Honorable Chairperson and members, we have been in discussion with the European Union, the three departments, basic education, higher education, and ourselves, to look at a program that is aimed at facilitating the entry from that is entry of people into employment from the schooling system, the tertiary system, and the labor market. And that program funds the three departments proportionally, basic, higher education, and ourselves. And we received 30.5 million in the previous year and the 30 million in the new financial year that we are going to start on the 1st. And from the previous year, you will recall, some of you may know that we managed to procure buses using the Archie contracts that we bought through Treasury. The money goes into the RDP funds, and the department draws it from there. So we're able to procure the mobile units that we are using quite extensively. They are not enough, but we are able to use them across the country for youth employment promotion. We are able to also fund a number of job fairs. In fact, the European Union has taken the model and they are giving it to other countries internationally, where we are able to bring young people, employers, and we are able to provide counseling. We bring together institutions of learning. And this week in Athlone, if honorable members are available, will be running one of the big job fairs. The acting Minister of Employment and Labour, Dr. Blade Nzimande, will be presiding, where we will be running over 2 days a jobs and career fair. The first session is dedicated to meeting with employers on how best can they assist us in resolving unemployment challenges, but also addressing their concerns. And the 2 days parallel sessions, which normally happens in the open field, where we erect marquees and bring in exhibitors, happens in the stadium or enclosures. So the 30 million from the European Union is aimed at supporting that initiative. Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson and honourable members.
What is happening? Thank you, Mr. Morotob. Can we then get a briefing from the Support Employment Enterprises? Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Chairperson, and to honourable members, honourable Deputy Minister, and our Acting Director General who's leading our delegation this morning. Chair, I'll switch off my camera so that I can proceed with the presentation. If we can move to slide number 61. I think that's that slide from here. Yes. Basically, Chairperson, the only change on our annual performance plan is a reduction on the number of MOUs, in other words, customer agreements in the next fiscal year. So the reason for that is a shift in our strategy from aggressive customer acquisition, which we've already comfortably overachieved in Q3 of the current fiscal year. So the predetermined objective was to deliver 10 customer agreements for the current fiscal year. In Q3, we were already on 12. Therefore, the shift in our strategy is driven by the fact that we now received massive orders from our current customer base. The focus now is to ensure that we deliver those orders on time, in full, and in quality, which will boost our reliability of our operational efficiencies and our market reputation in general. So if you can move to the next slide. The next slide is actually a split per quarter. If you can move to the next slide. Okay, like I indicated, the next slide is basically a split per quarter in terms of our plan targets. I mean, the current fiscal year has shown positive growth trends we've seen in Q3, which solidify our growth trajectory going into the new fiscal year. As members can see, our targets are accelerated in Q3 and Q5 based on the current the trends that we have seen that we've observed in Q3. I think we're still in slide. If we can move to the next slide. That's the slide I was just articulating on in terms of the split per quarter. And this the slide I pretty much covered. If you can move to the next one, then slide 53, I think. Yes. This is a very important slide for us because, Chair, one thing that is most concerning for us as management of SEE is our deficit budget. And as members can see, it gets worse even in the outer years. And as much as we understand the current fiscal consolidation in order to service the country's national debt, and as our CFO has articulated the strain in which he is facing, in finance. However, the deficit budget has far-reaching consequences for SEE, Chairperson, with adverse financial ramifications in that it directly impacts on our operational budgeting, which are ongoing costs of running a business on a daily basis, as opposed to capital budgeting, which focuses on long-term investments and assets. So in other words, operational budget is the backbone of our entity, like any other business, because it's basically about the day-to-day activities. So if you tamper with that, you are actually tampering with what accountants refer to as a going concern. No. Now, what exacerbated our situation is really the 72 million cut that the CFO has spoken to for the next MTSF period, which will hamper SEE's ability to acquire raw materials in order to fulfill customer orders that are already on our system. I believe that that should be a compelling enough suggestion for National Treasury to review its decision on cutting SE's budget. And I'm saying that, Chairperson, with full understanding of the current reality that is happening in terms of, like I've mentioned before, to actually look at decreasing our national debt. But so we really hope that even this committee can also add a voice in SE's getting a positive outcome in reviewing that 72 million cut for the next MTSF period. If you can move to the next slide. Yes, the next slide, Chair, is really just for us as an executive summary that points out to members the reality. The picture I'm painting here, Chair, as you can see, if you look at our allocation for the next period is 184 million. But if you look at our COE, which is cost of employment, is sitting at 204 million. So already we're sitting on a 20 million deficit for the next fiscal year. And like I said, the point we're making is that the current approach on SE's capitalization, which talks to underfunded mandate, will compromise the spirit of enterprise, management's ingenuity in venturing into new opportunities. Our sound judgment and effectiveness will be compromised by the unveiling reality because it basically limits all the avenues of increasing our sales revenues, because for that you need a bit of investment so that you can focus on driving other things. I mean, you look at our mandatory cost at 19.8 million. I can't even go to other expenses, but you just have to look at the total grant versus the salaries, which is the COE allocation. And Chair, I'm saying this because this is an entity that has been absorbing into permanent employment persons with disabilities in every financial year since 2019. Even during the peak of COVID, not a single soul lost employment at SEE. So in this current fiscal year, we're absorbing into permanent employment 150 persons with disabilities. So I'm just raising these concerns to point out that a decision like that would actually throw us back into the negativity of the COVID period. And it will hamper our ability to absorb persons with disability into employment. And as such, when everybody's getting salaries, I mean, when persons with disabilities are into employment, it actually increases the country's capacity. It also utilization. It also increases the economic activity because everybody's spending on local businesses and so forth. But that's just the economic rationale. That if people are employed, then it boosts the economy in its entirety. So we can proceed to the next slide. I just wanted to showcase the current reality that we face at supported employment enterprises. The next slide is basically the risk that we've predicted. There were a number of things operationally. So, I mean, in terms of load shedding and other stuff that impacted on SEE, but we've then decided to actually look at having this integrated value chain that will actually combine activities on our operations, business development, and SCM just to rationalize and improve our operational efficiencies. We've gotten a number of customers, like it's mentioned there. Public Works is one of our customers, Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities. All of these departments, like I said, Chair, we will not be able to actually acquire raw materials in order to service them if we've got such massive budget cuts. So now that we have increased our customer base, we will then need a bit of capitalization so that we can boost our operational budget so that we're able to fulfill our obligations to the customers on our base. A number of activities have also taken place. We've actually developing new products. As I've said, I think it was in the previous engagement with this committee that we are actually looking at diversification on a number of products. We're also looking at creating new revenue streams. We are developing new factory shops where we can actually drive revenue on a daily basis, all in an effort to make sure that we increase our sales revenue services. So, and also we are focusing on improved marketing. So all of these is just to reduce our risk, to mitigate our risks, in other words, because the main risk is inability to generate work opportunities. And again, like I said before, the biggest risk right now is really in terms of generating such opportunities is really the reduction on our budget. And as much as we are trying as management to put all of these efforts together, but the budget cut would really impact on us adversely, as I've indicated. We can move to the next slide. The next slide is really, I think it's, sorry, my network is busy. Yes, the next slide is looking at our national footprints. Each factory has got its own strength in terms of location as well. So what we're going to do, we're going to be using all of our key resources. There's some factories who specialize in wood and upholstery, and others in steel. So, and another strategy that we've put in place is to make sure, in order to cut our transportation cost, that the factories, for example, that are located in the Western Cape will be servicing mostly Western Cape customers, so that we can cut on our transportation cost based on the current situation that the CFO has also highlighted. So we're doing everything on our part to make sure that we cut all the non-core expenses that we can avoid. But obviously, there are those mandatory expenses that we cannot get out of. But we are streamlining our operations as well as a response to the current fiscal consolidation to make sure that we are reasonably working with what we have. But just an emphasis to say that in everything that we can do, but the last thing that can be done is really to constrain us further from already where we are, because even for last year we started on a deficit budget. So to cut is something that is already on deficit will really actually throw us out of the prospects that we've planned for the next fiscal year. We can move to the next slide. I think the next slide is basically a summary of what we ought to achieve. We've always stood for employment of opportunities for persons with disabilities, which we've delivered on for a number of years as part of our mandate. And like I said, we're also looking at innovations around our products in terms of getting smaller products that can be bought on a daily basis in order to drive different revenue streams. And like I've mentioned, as part of the risk that we've observed, we're looking at alternative energy source, which requires a bit of investment as well. So to make sure that based on the customer base we have, there are no interruptions in our operations, so that we are able to deliver to them, like I said, on time. And this is very important for our market reputation. So we're actually focusing on that very strongly. And obviously our legal identity would actually assist us going forward, because it will, again, I mean, looking at, as we're running SEE as twofolds. One, as a business that competes directly with the private sector. Secondly, as a social entity. So we need to balance that. So the legal identity will actually assist us in terms of looking at our cost as well, because the current procurement standards are not really favorable in terms of a business part of SEE. And again, like we said, we in as much as we have a target in terms of sales growth, but we're looking at the budgeted sales growth that we would get from our CFO to say if we have to survive, we have to be at least above 90 million to make sure that we survive. Because in as much as we reported growth from, I think last year we ended on 53.4 million. Currently, we're sitting over 60 million. In as much as we're doing well, but we're not near where we're supposed to be in terms of looking after our expenses. Hence, we're targeted 90 million growth. So we're saying in overall, Chairperson, that we're doing well, but what will hamper us and make us resort back to the negative numbers of the COVID period will definitely be the budget cut. Even if we get funding from elsewhere, but we need to really reconsider this 72 million reduction in terms of SEE budget, so that we can also move forward as a going concern and continue to absorb into permanent employment persons with disabilities. Thank you so much, Chairperson. I would like to end here. And thank you so much. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you so much, CEO of SEE. Members, we have received those two presentations. In fact, the department department presentation, which include SEE. I will check for you, check any hands for questions, clarities, and comments. I've only one hand for now. Okay. Honorable Begram, Honorable Mkonto. The third one is Honorable Mdabe, in that order. Honorable Begram.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it, and thank you for the reports. I appreciate all the hard work that's gone into it. However, I'm still not so sure that I would support any budget cuts, and I think effectively I need to make some comments, and maybe they can comment on my comments. But I mean, the budget cuts we've seen for the CCMA are devastating. It's probably the only entity that's actually producing any results, and they're trying to destroy it. And in fact, already we're seeing destruction in its ranks. And maybe they can comment on that, because that is interfacing with the public who are desperate. And we're seeing other organizations like SEE that basically are almost worthless. I mean, if you go to the very last slide, second last slide, with SEEs, and I'll come back to it just now, but you go to slide 56. I'm not sure if the numbering's right. It might be 55 in their estimate, but 56 on the document that I've got. Altogether, they're employing 1,300 people. And how many millions are they spending on this? And we know that the department says that it costs 250,000 Rand to create one job. I don't know where they got that figure, and that's probably what it costs them. They're probably not lying. But if you went to the local spaza shop and asked them how much it costs to create one job, they'd say 5,000 Rand. But here you've got 25,000 Rand per job, which, I mean, it's madness. The monies we know are going into parastatals that are just sucking the fiscus dry. And maybe we should have a relook at that. I know that the president, 2 sonas ago, President Ramaphosa assured the public and all of us sitting in Parliament that there would be a proper investigation into legislation and regulations which are hindering the employment from small businesses and big business. Now, we don't know if that investigation is still continuing. We don't know the outcome of that investigation. We don't know if the department, who should be at the forefront of this, if they can give us a report, because we're just hearing about ways and means of they're going to try and create jobs at the cost of 25,000 Rand per job. And that's not actually a job. It's a job opportunity, as was said in our last meeting. So I have difficulty with these reports altogether. There is an overall failure of the department. We got the worst employment in the world, second worst productivity in the world. We can't send out enough inspectors because we don't have money for them. And the only thing, as I said, which is working seems to now is almost destroyed. So one would then have a look at all these particular problems that they've raised, and we're just not getting proper answers. Somehow it seems to be business as usual, and being business as usual means that we're going to destroy the economy even more than what we've seen in the past. I mean, if you look at slide 51, it says 150 employment opportunities for persons with disabilities. I mean, that's piffling. That's really nothing. When we've got almost 7% of our working population should be from the disabled community. That's thousands and thousands, close on 1 million people, and they can create 150 employment opportunities. That's real mad in the SEE factories. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. They then say they want to try and collect 90 million. Well, how much are we spending to collect the 90 million? Now, I understand that the whole idea is also to have some sort of opportunity that's going, but we're never going to get to the 90 million. And even if we try and get to the 90 million, we're losing more than that in it. So the identified risks is that and it says so at page 55, slide 55, it might be 54, that they have identified a risk of the inability to generate work opportunities. That's not even jobs. That's work opportunities for 1 day, 1 month, maybe 6 months. They can't generate it. And the sooner our government realizes that it is the fiscus that should be helping the private sector to create an environment, it shouldn't be costing them anything. They shouldn't be spending money on generating work opportunities or even employment. What they should be spending time, trouble, and effort, possibly through the entities within the department, is to identify what is hampering the private sector from creating more jobs. Why is the private sector on an investment strike? Why are they not creating more jobs? What is the problem? Now, that is identified, as I said earlier, by the president, and every year we hear those identities. Now, we understand that with the SEE, they've got a social identity, and it is good. I'm not calling for the destruction of the SEE. What I'm calling for is that they should actually get more involved with the private sector instead of spending money saying, help us out here. Now, there is one good effort. That's they've reached out to Harambee, and Harambee has got a track record, and they are creating jobs, and they do have a very good social identity. They should be taking over a lot of this and saying, all right, let us run these entities. So thank you, Madam Chair, for listening to me. I got a lot else, but I don't want to, I see we're already at 12 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Bikram. Honorable Mkonta.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning to you, Chair, honorable members, the DM, acting DG, and her team and our staff. Chair, I will have a few questions and comments. My first question will be on slide 16. I'm sorry for that. The funded vacant post is said, according to the presentation, will be filled within 12 months, and there is a plan to have 47% of SMS positions being occupied by women. Chair, why is our plan not in accordance to Stats SA's records? Because according to Stats SA, women constitute more than 50% of the population of South Africa. So if we say we are gunning for 47%, I find that a little bit abnormal. The 40% youth, I agree with, but the 47% women, I don't agree, Chair. And then the second one will be slide number 20 that talks about the 298,104 inspectors. Chair, can we get maybe in the future the ratio between the inspectors? Because I feel that we have a less number of inspectors than required or than the demand in the country. Can we get a ratio of the inspectors that we have in the whole country and the employers that need to be inspected? Because there is an outcry out there. People need inspectors, and they don't get serviced. And my take is that we don't have enough inspectors to do the work. The issue of tools of trade has been addressed. Thanks very much for that. But then, can we then look at the number of the inspectors that we have, a ratio in relation to the number of employers that needs to be inspected? The last one, Chair, will be the SEE. Chair, even in the presentation, it is stated that Mpumalanga doesn't have an SEE. I don't know whether the people with disabilities in Mpumalanga, they don't deserve employment according to this department. And Chair, to share the light to this department, that should it happen that Mpumalanga has an SEE, that SEE will be able to produce goods even for Swaziland and Mozambique if correctly positioned. So it has been years, Chair, I've been requesting the minister to give us timelines as to when is an SEE going to be established in Mpumalanga. My last comment, Chair, will be, I'm not surprised that there have been budget cuts everywhere, but not the compensation of employees. You know, Chair, it's even surprising that we requested as a committee that the National Treasury must be informed by the minister at the executive meetings that other departments must make SEEs as a priority when it comes to procurement of goods that are being produced by the SEEs. That has never been implemented, but now is budget cuts, and the SEEs are affected, but the compensation of employees is not affected. And I'm not surprised, because it means the department does have powers to influence the National Treasury where to make cuts and where not to make cuts. And this time they decided to cut in every service delivery unit or department or a sub-unit or directorate, but the only sub-directorate where there are no budget cuts is compensation of employees, because it affects them directly. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mkondo. Honorable Mdabe.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to you and the honorable members, the Deputy Minister, Acting DG, and the staff. Thank you for the presentation. Chairperson, there is a saying in finance that you cut your suit according to cloth you have. Therefore, based on what National Treasury has put up as a ceiling for the departments to therefore then cut their suits, what does not then reflect is to what is it that they have prioritized in relation to the cloth they have, so that they'll be able therefore then to meet up with their strategic objectives. I'm raising this, Chair, because we seem to be always complaining and crying about the size of the cake, and we do not therefore then look at how then are we going to make sure that we distribute that cake based on the ability that we have. Having made that comment, Chair, the issue that I have on the presentation, which I would require a clarity on. Understanding the presentation on slide 34 in relation to the protection of vulnerable groups through progressive labor legislations, is in relation to the National Migration Policy, as well as the proposed amendments to the Employment Services Act. The presentation reflects that the process is ready for presentation to government or to cabinet. My issue, Chair, is that it seems as if we are taking longer to address the immediate issues that really does not that much have a direct impact in terms of National Treasury budget cuts, but on the daily operations, on the issues that we should have presented so that we are able to eliminate measures and issues that are not necessarily affected by the budgetary cuts. Unless my analysis is incorrect, I would like to be clarified. The other issue, Chair, is the strategies that are in place to improve the placement of targeted work seekers in a negotiated job opportunities within PAS. What has been presented to us, Chair, is the issue of a target. However, it lacks the strategies that therefore they would then employ to make sure that that target is met. The issue of budget credibility, which I refer to as a cloth that you would use to cut your suit. How does the budget allocation align with the department's strategic priorities and key initiatives, especially those aimed at strengthening institutional capacity and improving public employment services? Last one, Chair, if we can be provided with information on any budgetary constraints and their potential impact on achieving labor market objectives. I'm raising these issues, Chair, on the relation to the percentage cut to CCMA. And I think it was in the last meeting or a meeting before that, where we were told that as part of the labor activation program, CCMA is one of the institutions that would therefore facilitate the issue of job preservations for the sustainability of the current employment, especially on section 197, in relation to one, that they are allocated a certain percentage or a certain amount of money for them to do that, or to perform that task. Therefore, Chair, the issue was the applications that have been received and processed. If you look at that, Chair, you would fail to reconcile the information presented in relation to the institution that has a capacity to sustain job opportunities and activities in the economy, the same time necessary institutional capacity to perform that task. So I'm trying to create a balance in the information that is being presented. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mjabe. Those are the questions that have been, comments, and clarities that have been raised by members. Acting DG, I don't know the response, who will start, and whoever, it's all up upon you. But can we get then some responses to those questions, clarities, and comments? Over to you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and honorable members. And we welcome the questions, and we will respond in the order of IES responses by Chief Inspector, and as well as SEE, Mpumalanga, PES, DDG, and as well as I will respond, Chairperson, to the rest of the other questions, and then we will take those responses as well from the other colleagues. We would then add. I think, Chairperson, one of the biggest realities and challenges that we have in the budget cuts is us putting the strategies in place in making sure that indeed with the budget cuts, we actually re-strategize and put our plans in order for us, firstly, to be able to optimally and meaningfully implement these plans that we have put before you. And then the exercise of putting together these plans according to budgets and providing these operational plans maybe to the committee would be the next maybe other thing that maybe an opportunity presents itself, Honorable Chairperson, for the department to be able to do that, so that indeed the committee has a picture of exactly how we will be implementing these programs and how we will be providing service delivery as expected. I think the question on the labor reviews, which started back in 2021, which is correct, and was in the State of the Nation address by the President, is actually in progress. And there has been discussions in the Chamber of Labor with business, with organized labor and government in terms of these labor reviews, which amongst other elements of these reviews would be SMMEs. However, as the chairperson and the members know, and as per our presentation on what was the aspects that we were taking for review, which goes across the labor portfolio and the different acts, it is in progress. So maybe chairperson, once again, we would like the members to know that that process is ongoing. It is not an easy process. It has taken maybe now 16 months, but we will update as we get to what gets agreed by the partners, because it is a give and take process, Honorable Chairperson, for these reviews. I think one of the biggest things that has been happening in the meantime, though, between government departments, the cooperation between departments of small business development, trade and industry, employment and labor, has very much, and National Treasury, has very much been about providing enabling environment through digitization of these very important labor legislation compliance requirements and making sure that they're accessible. And there have been several platforms that have been created across government that speaks to easing of business and digitizing processes for small businesses. The second element is as well as the procurement bill of 2023 of National Treasury, which still awaits that completion. However, in it is a set aside of 30% for SMMEs to be for government and a broader economic sector to procure their services from small business enterprises. There are several sectorial and economic sectorial plans, and all of these plans have been put together from agriculture, from human settlements, from trade and industry, from SMMEs, in making sure that small enterprises are actually included, not just in the procurement by big business and government, but also for them to be part of the value chains, which is actually beyond a legislation, but making them sustained in order for them to continue with their businesses and to grow, and as well as in making sure that when they grow, they are actually able to provide those sustainable jobs. With regards to the funded vacant posts, the question from Honorable Mkondo is that when we have a national employment equity plan, the national employment equity plan is cascaded to provinces, to organizations in terms of a breakdown, and therefore what you would see as a picture and is what we communicate is not a national picture, but it is a departmental picture of employment equity with regards to Department of Employment and Labor. And thus you see that, and you would see that also in Compensation Fund, in UIF, in all of the other entities, they would have it, but there is a national picture of the employment equity that would talk to inclusion and access across gender, across people with disabilities, and making sure that, so we take that and we cascade it, and it goes to that granular detail up to a departmental level, and in a department, it goes to directorate level. And thus, we get the picture that we see there. With regards to IES, I have Chief Inspector Reuters. She will be talking on the ratio of employers to inspections that need to be conducted, but also she will talk to the strategy that is a mitigation strategy in understanding the amount of inspections we need to conduct and our inability to reach to all. What is the strategy that we're putting in place in order for us to still be able to conduct these inspections, understanding the circumstances and the challenges, but we've got strategies and plans. She will talk to that. And then with regards to the Mpumalanga SEE, I've requested Mr. Morotoba as well to respond to it. But with regards to budgeting, and how is the department and the whole value chain of the Department of Employment and Labor, Section 189, and the recommendations that the CCMA makes is facilitated by CCMA, and it will continue to be within their budget. However, the recommendations that they would be putting forward for Productivity South Africa and for the UIF to implement the temporary employer-employee relief schemes will continue. It is not necessarily adversely affected by the budget cuts. The process will continue as it is facilitated at 3 different institutions within the Dell family. I think that when we speak about the budget and in dealing with the budget cuts, think that the comment from Honorable Mdabe in terms of making sure that we actually plan and we optimize the resources that we have, so that in any of the budget allocations that we get, we do not get to a point when it comes to a financial year end that we return money to National Treasury when we have this outcry of budget cuts. So that is the process and the strategies. There are strategies that we are putting in place in optimizing our operational plans and fitting them to the budgets, but also there are initiatives as presented by Mr. Morotoba, where we get partnerships with international donors, where we work with national institutions in terms of optimizing our implementation, in terms of what we have, and also meaningfully implementing the strategy of employment retention, employment creation, and development of strategies to alleviate the high unemployment rate that we currently have. I would therefore request through you, Honorable Chairperson and members, if the CFO, the DDG PES, and the Chief Inspector can also be adding, and other members of the department in the platform, with regards to the questions that have been asked. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Acting DG. Can we, Mr. Morotoba, the Chief Inspector, can you please respond on this in relation to the inspectors? That is a very profound question that we will always ask. So can you please respond to those questions and comments that have been raised? Whoever want to start.
Should I go first, Honorable Chairperson? Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Honorable Chairperson, regarding the establishment of the factory in Mpumalanga, we have reported on the numerous meetings that we have had with the province and the sites that they have shown to us, the old prison in Barberton, the disability school in Bushbuck Ridge. And currently, the province has identified the Mkhuhlu or Shani Old Teachers Training College. And this is the area where we are going to have to work with the engineers from Public Works to check the suitability and the way they can convert the college into a factory. And I think, Honorable Chairperson, we may invite some of you or all of you when the minister finally receives one of the revamped workshops in the Durban area, so that you can see the amount of work that Public Works can do, though it took about 3 years to revamp that factory. But we believe that if Public Works can agree and commission the renovations, they will be able to turn the old Hoshani Training College into a factory that we can use. Honorable Mdabe raised the issue of the migration policy. 3 points to make. We have funded the development of the policy through donor funding. One of the things that delayed us, Honorable Mdabe, was the sign-off of the bill by the state law advisors, and we are still at NEDLEC to sign off the report on the policy, because we negotiated, they signed off on the bill. When the white paper on migration came out, some of the stakeholders wanted to make sure that there is alignment. And even yesterday, I was in a meeting at NEDLEC with the executive director, Home Affairs, the leaders of business and labor, to try and allay their fears and to finally agree on the distinctions between the different policies and what each one of them intends to achieve. And they've agreed to sign off. I think the others is up to you as members of the parliament around the timing and whether we can be able to process the bill within the remaining time. Honorable Mdabe, you raised the strategies that we're employing to also make sure that we place people. One of the things I mentioned was the partnerships with the various platforms that we have, the CETA, Youth Mobi, NYDA, CEDA. We're working with all those. And even in Athlon, if you were to get a chance, you will see how we are developing those partnerships, because we can't deal with this problem of unemployment alone. And the job fairs and career fairs that were sponsored by the EU are part of the major strategies that we have seen bringing employers where they make pledges, where they do recruitment on spot, and where they also assist us in the counseling and telling work seekers what their expectations are. And we believe that we are making a lot of inroads, and that is why the EU came back to commit additional funding for us to continue with that program. And I think the COO acting mentioned our development of the ICT to be amongst the state of the art, the app that people using their phones without having to come to the department can register opportunities, and work seekers can also match themselves. Thank you, Acting DG.
Thank you. Can we get a response on the question about inspectors?
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson, and to the Honorable Members of Parliament. With regard to the question about the inspectorate, we currently have our approved structure for the inspectorate. We have 2,275 people on the establishment. This includes the inspectors plus the administrative staff that provide support to the inspectorate. With regard to the 2,274, we have vacancies, about 167 vacancies, of which 166 is frozen, but there is a process that's being followed. It's with regard to the DPSA circulars where the positions were frozen. So with our inspectorate, we normally give the inspectors a target for them to perform a certain amount of inspections within a period of a month, and that is how we come to the 298,104 inspections that are done on an annual basis. And as per slide 22, it also indicates the breakdown per province, and that breakdown is based on the number of inspectors per province. When it comes to the number of employers, I don't have the data on hand, but we can get the data from the Unemployment Insurance Fund, as well as the Compensation Fund, and even from SARS, with regard to how many employers do we have currently. I don't have the data on hand, Chairperson. As per the DG's request, when it comes to inspection and enforcement services, we know that we don't have sufficient inspectors to be able to go to all employers at least once per year. So in order for us to be able to have an impact, we have our inspection and enforcement strategy. Under the inspection and enforcement strategy, we have sub-strategies like, for instance, occupational health and safety strategy, your advocacy strategy, etc. So the three main pillars for inspection and enforcement services is advocacy and capacity building, where we spend a significant amount of our time doing advocacy as well as capacity building for your employees in the form of organized labor, shop stewards, or as well as advocacy for employers, seminars, etc. Like, for instance, today we are having an explosive seminar where we're looking at the explosive sector. Then the second pillar is our inspections, and that is the just over 298,000 inspections that we do to see if there's compliance with all the different labor laws. And then if we find that employers are non-compliant, we do enforcement, and it's also one of our APP targets, where we then issue our enforcement notices and we refer for prosecution. And for that, we do need the NPA. How do we ensure that we have maximum impact? We do identify high risk and problematic sectors, and we put a focus on those. As we speak, Honorable Chairperson, I am just from the Northwest, where we are busy doing a sectorial blitz in the wholesale and retail sector over the period of 3 days. As at yesterday, we did 120 inspections with the group that we had, and we issued more than 80 compliance notices, compliance orders, as well as notices. So we do have our sectorial blitz programs that we have on a regular basis. Before the end of this month, we will be having a second one that will be taking place in the chemical sector, where we'll be focusing on that particular sector. And that is to make sure that we go to the areas where there is high risk, as well as problematic sectors, where we then perform advocacy sessions, inspections, and enforcement. And with our inspections, we do proactive as well as reactive inspections, where we proactively do our inspections and also to try and avoid injuries and diseases, but also we do reactive inspections. With our reactive inspections is when there's incidents that has occurred or there has been complaints, and for that we also look at what is the root cause for it, so that when we do our advocacy and capacity building sessions, we do use that information as part of our program to ensure that we have maximum impact and we ensure compliance with labor laws. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much for the responses. Can I, GM, is there, because I don't see any hand now, is there anything that you want to add on the responses?
Thank you, Chair. I think most of the questions were responded to adequately so by our officials, but also just to say, Chair, that whilst the team emphasized regrettable and unavoidable decreasing budget limitations, we have to innovatively work with what we have, or make do more with less. But also to add that the austerity measures necessitates prudence, smart planning, efficiency, and innovative use of the budget itself. So the use of or an improved performance in the implementation performance plan and allocated funds. What we need to do is to avoid this issue of return funds all the time at the end of the financial year. We just have to make sure that we spend what we've budgeted for, and we are able to do and move with speed immediately after the budget approval. We have to move with speed, not to wait for the end of the financial year to run around. It seems to be the case most often than not. So what we are allocated, I think it is high time that we start with implementation of the budget and spending immediately after the beginning of the new financial year. I thank you, Chair.
No, thank you very much, TM. I was just looking on the attendance register. The CDPOs that are still in the meeting, I hope I'm correct. There are only two. I think it's Northwest and the Eastern Cape. I'm raising this because issues that are raised and the concerns that we are having as public representatives and those that are deployed in this committee are issues that are affecting communities. The Department of Employment and Labor is not services are not provided by the HQ. They are provided by provinces, and we appreciate the fact that provinces chief directors log in so that they can have an understanding of the concerns and questions that are raised by members of parliament. For instance, I'll just make an example about this issue of inspectors. You'll understand that we as public representatives, we do receive complaints from communities, and we don't call, some of us, it's seldom that we would call the Inspector General or the DG. We will call provinces because that's where the challenge is. So I want them to have that understanding that we are not just inviting them to be here, but we invite them to be here for them to have an understanding and hear the questioning and the concerns and the comments that are made by the public representatives. It is in that at times I would like members not to be general but to be specific, so that when you leave here you understand. If it has been reported that in Gqeberha the queues are long. In Gqeberha we received a complaint. In Northwest we received a complaint, and that complaint therefore is not a complaint that is to be responded to by the acting DG or by the ministry, but by you. So provinces are key. But there's one thing that I would like, maybe in the last, if we do, some of us do come back in the 7th administration and maybe be again redeployed to this portfolio. Again, inspection, acting DG. It's always private sector that you will be hearing that we do inspection here, we do inspection there. I don't know whether inspections are being conducted in the public sector. Because remember that they are to be inspected too. Maybe with the exception, maybe the Department of Health, because it has got its unit that does inspections. But there are other. I'm raising this because we must not assume that public service is also it's run, not unless you will say to us, no, Chair, we are confident in the public service. Everything is basic conditions of employment, occupation, health and safety is tops. So I would as we we'll be moving forward to the next administration. Some of the things that have been raised, that have been continuously being raised by members of this portfolio committee, you will then have to sit down so that when the next committee, we are going to be tabling a legacy report. There are issues that we are going to raise in that legacy report, which you as the department, because that legacy report is not going to be only for members of parliament, but it's also going to assist you in the next administration to check the areas that are red, the areas that you have been weak. How then do you ensure that you are then able to correct those? So we'll appreciate that as we'll then be moving forward. So the issue of vacancies is a sore point to us, both in the administration and in the inspectors. And we must be the next administration must be informed of what exactly, why is it, apart from the budget cuts came, you have a vacancy rate that has been very alarming. And I will say now, you have find is Zimela those budget cuts. But you have from 2019, we have been concerned and being alarmed by the high rate of vacancies, which we have said not once but twice that you are the department that must lead by example. So budget cuts came long after we have been raising this thing that this department must be a department that is to lead by example. So in terms of the inspectors, I'm of the understanding that you are also supposed to inspect, to check the level and the rate of vacancies in all these departments, so that we are then able to have a understanding why Department X is having this high rate. It's not only the responsibility of that portfolio committee, because this portfolio committee is to this department and the ministry is to ensure that it creates a conducive environment. Obviously, you are not to employ, but you are to ensure that departments they do employ and create that conducive environment. Having said that, I just want to remind and provinces, and they must prepare themselves. Comrade Wababa, I'm sorry, Mr. Wababa and TM wouldn't like to have an apology from provinces. We would like to have all CPTOs here when we are then having our last meeting as this portfolio committee, and raising some for them to listen to our. It's going to be a physical meeting. So that's why I'm reminding now, because Mr. Sakaza, if I'm correct, that meeting is going to be the last meeting, which is going to be the meeting of the 27th. So we will appreciate that they do. Am I correct if I'm saying it's going to be the meeting of the 27th?
Correct, Chair.
Yes. So they are here. They must check their diaries. We don't want any apologies from provinces in particular, because we are going to be on the ground. Everybody is going to be on the ground. And you must pick up now what is it that is really a challenge, and how then in moving forward in your next term, in next administration, how then do you try and either your focus in your planning, which will then be a unit that you'll be focusing on. But let me again say, at least they do come back when we, personally, I do. If I receive issues from emails, I forward them, they do come back to me. And say, we have attended on this thing, this is where we are. Unfortunately, abahlali they don't come back when things have been done, when they have received a response that is satisfactory. It's only when they receive a response that is not satisfactory. So we will meet on the 27th, but we are again meeting on the 20th. It's going to be a virtual meeting. Having said that, members, thank you very much. We will then meet on the 20th.
Sorry, Chair.
Honorable GM.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to assure Honorable Chair and Honorable members that we do inspections to even our own offices. I must actually report that one of our labor centers in Klerksdorp in the Northwest has been shut down by our own inspectors because of non-compliance. And it's not that it's our offices. Remember, all these offices are under Public Works, and Public Works is not maintaining its buildings. And actually, Minister Mutsoaledi called me several times that our complaining that our inspectors are actually on his case, because when he was the Minister of Health, we used to shut down most of his hospitals because of non-compliance with safety measures and other related issues. And now that in Home Affairs, we are now following him because most of his Home Affairs offices also, the buildings are really not compliant in terms of occupational health and safety. But we are going also, there has been, I'm sure the Inspector General will attest to the fact that we are doing more inspections. I know of one social development office that has since been closed in the Northwest, but the Home Affairs, Public Works does not come to the party. And I'm sure at some point, the portfolio committee might want to have, maybe in the future, might want to have a joint session with the portfolio committee of the Public Works to actually probe some of these issues. Why are they not maintaining? Because surely if departments were taking care of their own maintenance of their own buildings and properties, surely the situation will not be as dire as it is now. But I do guarantee, Chair, that we are doing that. But we also want to thank Honorable Mkondo for her consistency. We have been singing the same song all along about our SEEs. Every platform, that every space we get, we talk about the fact that we need support for our SEEs, and sometimes it seems as if it feels the pleas falling on deaf ears. But we will continue to do so, and when we do our handover, to motivate those who will be coming after us. I'm sure in the next, coming, the 7th administration, we hope that we will get support from all other stakeholders that needs to give us support. But again, Chair, we promise that, I'm sure even the acting DG will promise you that all the CDPOs will make sure that they are present in the physical meeting of the 27th. And if anybody is sick, they must go to hospital now, so that by that time we are all part of this meeting. I thank you, Chair. We will then be, yeah. Now I've been dislodged by the DM because it's really dislodged me. No, thank you, honorable members. We will meet again in our meeting, the next portfolio committee is going to be virtual, but the last portfolio committee of ours is going to be physical, and I think it's that portfolio committee that will also be adopting our legacy report, so that the next administration is able to make a concrete follow-up on the issues that have been raised around the Department of Portfolio Committee of Employment and Labor. Having said that, thank you very much until we meet in our next virtual meeting, which is the 20th. Thank you. Our meeting stand adjourned. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair.
Chair.
Just one more
No,
item for the committee.
sorry. We will then release all the department with their with the CTPOs, because we are going to be dealing with our in-house issues, which is going to be our minutes, which are really going to need us. Thank you very much. Xa sebephumile bonke, Zolani, you will indicate. Thank you.
Okay, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and members. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting HOD.
Thank you, Chairperson. Long live Chairperson.
Thank you, Sisi. Ngubani itumeleng, Zolani?
Chair, bebe mentionile we department.
Makaphume kaloku, kutheni ngaphumi nje? Thank you. All right, Zolani, can you please, the minutes, I think it's only one set of minutes, am I correct?
Chair, one set of 28 March, Chair.
Thank you. There are the minutes, the 21st of March.
28 February, Chair, sorry.
It's very faint in Achigayam. All right. Okay. Honorable members, those are the minutes. Can we have a formal mover?
Sibusiso Mdabe, Chair.
Honorable Mdabe.
I, Sibusiso Mdabe, formally move for adoption of the minutes of the 28th of February 2024. I so move.
Thank you. Can we have a second? A seconder?
Untitled Chair.
Oh, yeah, seconder le meeting yakho.
Hello, Chair.
Yes, Honorable Nonsel.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry.
You were
I'm
chairing that meeting. Were you not
yes,
chairing that meeting?
yes, Chair. Yes, that's
Okay.
why I'm laughing. Thank you, Chair. I'm seconding now as an attendee, not as a chair.
All
Is it
right.
procedure?
I'm trying to think if it's procedural.
Yeah.
I'm trying to just think if it's procedural.
And so that we don't get ourselves tripped over.
Mm. Any seconder? All right, Honorable Nontsel.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I formally second Honorable motion by Honorable Ndabe for the adoption of the minutes as moved, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. But why is Phakathi still in this meeting? Mr. Phakathi still in this meeting, Zolan and
There's
Ms. Zotan?
Actually, I don't know why bengaphumi because uThixo maphume, they are still here.
Chair, these people, they log in and leave their gadgets alone. They don't attend these meetings.
Wait. Zibhaki ezishiyeke apha.
Yes, they log
Hey.
in and leave the gadgets alone. So we are talking alone. They are not there. So
Yeah.
this is a sign that they are not in the meeting, because he should have heard that you said they must log out.
Abazuphinda babe senhlanganisweni zethu ke xa beshiya ibhaki. Thank you, honorable members. We'll meet again on the 20th.
Thank you, Chair.
Our meeting is adjourned. Chini, Thando. Nothando kwayisham yena akakho. Ushiya
Uhlalo
ibhaki.
ndikhona sihlalo.
Uxelele uphakathi noZothani bazuphinda babe kwezi meeting zethu xa beshiya ibhaki.
I was trying to call them, but they're not picking up the phone.
Oh,
Thando ulibhaji.
Ufonela ibhaki.
Oh, Honorable Ndabe, I'm here.